There we go. All right, let's get started. We are live. Um, whether you're watching live or recorded, and just as a reminder for everybody, for the recordings for all of these, if you go to the Montessori Foundation, um, let's see if I can close the waiting room. Um, Turn off the waiting room. There we go. If you're looking for any of the recordings of these, if you go to the Montessori Foundation YouTube page, so just go to YouTube, look on Montessori Foundation. We have all of these on there. There's probably about 30 of these that have been recorded that are on that page. So that is where you can find them. It is just me today. Tim is overseas consulting with schools. So we'll see him next week. For those that may be watching this for the first time, my name is Clint Losh, founder, owner of the company AIMS, which stands for Admissions Inquiry and Marketing Software at getaims.co. Essentially, what we have is all-in-one marketing and admission software, so you can really track people from that first click to the website, running ads, all the way through, frankly, collecting tuition. And for Montessori schools out there, literally this week, we are launching a full integration with Montessori Compass, and they do classroom management and parent communication. So we'll officially have an all-in-one solution all the way from that first, like I said, that first ad click, creating awareness, all the way through they're enrolled in your school, your teachers are recording what's going on in the classroom, communicating with parents. So we've got an all-in-one suite, if you will. And we're actually calling that the Montessori Growth Suite. So excited for that to launch. So you'll probably see that in your email here over the next few days. But that's what I'm up to. And for today's session, we're going to talk some search engine optimization. I feel like it's every time we get to this point of the year where things start, I guess you could say, settle down a little bit, maybe towards even though graduation's coming up and but as you're getting towards the end of the year, maybe getting some projects in place that for the summer that you held off on through the year. One of those, I've just been receiving a lot of questions about SEO, search engine optimization. How do we rank higher in Google? Quick question for everybody. Who here is anybody actively doing SEO?
I think we are.
Okay, talk to me about that. So Tiffany, when you say you think you are, talk to me about that.
So we recently partnered with a company, and now I've been in communication with our team here, and we've talked about Google and key phrases that need to be on our website in order for us to pop up higher in the search engine for Google. So I'm assuming that this that we're doing that, but this like it's fairly
Okay,
recent, like of this year.
okay, great. That's helpful. I think Matthew, you concur. I agree with that. Jody, I saw you pop on. I didn't know if you had anything else. Okay. Um, yeah, and let me follow up on that because when you think about Google and ranking in the search engine, I mean, it is truly a puzzle. They don't even come out, just so everybody's aware, like Google doesn't come out and tell you really like if you do this, you're gonna rank. Like they've made it their policy not to do that. But even though they have people that give you what are called best practices, and the reason they haven't come out and say exactly how to do it, that they don't want to reveal their algorithm. But from all the research, everything we know at this point, you know what it takes to move up the rankings. Now, I will say it changes. What worked 3 years ago is not what works today. What worked 5 years ago definitely doesn't work today. There's some tried, things that people consider tried and true that can actually hurt you. So, not that I want to go into the weeds with SEO because it is like a full time job. For part of my career, I thought I was going to do SEO for local businesses at one point, and that was a nightmare. And I don't think I want to do a local SEO. You know, in terms of like doing the actual it's a full time job. You know, so I actually don't expect anybody in here to be doing SEO on your own. And this leads me into my question that I was going to have for everybody because in thinking about that puzzle and that algorithm and what's working and what isn't, there's really two, when you break it down, there are two key elements of what will move you up the rankings. Tiffany, you hit on one already, which we call on-page SEO, which is how do we optimize the site, get all the title tags and the right words and blog titles, all that type of stuff, right? And we'll dive into that a little bit as well. Does anybody know what the second piece is? Anybody want to guess? Venture a guess.
Magic.
You know what? That's probably a really good way to put it. It kind of does feel like magic sometimes. It's like we're just gonna do a bunch of stuff and poof, we hope that we magically appear at the top of Google.
Is it like algorithms or something behind the scenes?
And so I would say algorithm is kind of the foundation. It all plays into the algorithm. So one big piece of the algorithm is on page, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. So on page again means how optimized is your site. So let me just go high level, like what goes into that. How fast is your site? For example, Google made that a priority a couple of years ago. So if you think about it from Google's perspective, they want to provide the best user experience for somebody that is in the search engine typing private schools near me, then they click on your school. They want page speed. That's like one of the most important things. So like we actually have a page speed analyzer as part of our software where we can look at how fast your website loads on desktop and mobile. And so that's a very important factor. Now that's one piece, right? It's what keywords are on your website. I will say keywords are still important, less important compared to what they were years ago. If we were having this conversation 5-6 years ago, I probably would have said, you know what? If you want to rank for Montessori schools in Philadelphia, then you better make sure you have Montessori schools in Philadelphia all over the website. They call that keyword stuffing, a bunch of keywords, and that actually worked. Google smart, they smartened up, and if you try to do that now, you'll actually get penalized. So Google's smart enough to understand what your website is about. So keywords I think are important. I think keywords are important when it comes to geographic areas that you want to target. I'm going to get into that here in a second because I know some of us, like if you're in Philadelphia, I'll use this as an example because I live near Philadelphia. If you're in Philadelphia, you're going to rank for Philadelphia. But if you're like where I'm at, which is in the suburbs, there's all these small little towns, and you're not going to rank for. You don't want to rank for each. You're not just going to pick one. You want to rank for the whole area, the county, things like that. So how do you do that? We'll talk about that. So what else on page? The title of your page. We'll talk about that. Those are things that go into on page. Now, if today you did everything perfect to the T, where you had a Google engineer come onto your website and make your website perfect in terms of the on-site stuff that they want, that will move your website up only so far. It will move you up for sure, but that will typically get you so far. So let's just use as an example, hypothetically, you were on page 3 for, let's just say Montessori schools in Philadelphia. Let's keep rolling with that example. Let's say you were on page 3 of Google, and as everybody, hope everybody's aware, pretty much nobody clicks past page 1, and all of the clicks pretty much happen in the top 3 to 5 searches anyway. So that's your goal, right? It's not even page 1, it's the top of page 1. So let's say you're page 3, you do everything perfect on your website. Maybe that moves you to page 2, maybe even the bottom of page 1. And then there you are, you're sitting there. Then the question is, what do we do? How do we keep moving up? This comes into the second piece of SEO, and it's called, as you can imagine, we have on page and then we have off page SEO. So what off page means, does anyone take a guess what off page means? Off page SEO. So off page SEO, for the most part, means how many other, I'm going to put this qualifier in there, reputable websites are linking back to you. So the example, if I do this analogy correctly, it's like you walk into a party and who's the cool person at the party, and every person points to you. So, oh, well, that's the cool person at the party. I heard that analogy one time. I always kind of thought about that. And that's kind of the same way that SEO works. Who should be ranked at the top of Google for Montessori schools in Philadelphia? Well, if the local Philadelphia newspaper and magazines and websites, Philly.com, all of them, they have a link that links back to your website. The more links you get, the more power your website gets, the more that you move up. So typically when you look to do SEO and maybe you look to hire an agency to do SEO, that's usually what you end up having to pay a lot of money for. It's that work of getting you the links. I will say, full disclosure, we have that part of our software now at a fraction of the price to do that link building for you automatically. We'll talk about that later if you want to, but that's the big piece is how do we get local publications? How do we get more websites to rank? And so, or to point back to you. So that's why SEO, and just to make sure we all have same expectations, SEO is a long-term game. You could, again, do everything perfectly today. You could start getting those backlinks. So that's what they're called, off-page SEO. It's really called getting backlinks, links coming back to your site. You're getting those. You do everything perfectly on your website. It still can take you months to move to the top because you're subject to that Google algorithm. How they're not crawling your website and checking your website every single day, even though we might think they are. It might just be every few days, every week that they're actually checking your website to decide, hey, where should we rank you today? And the other big factor is how competitive is it? Who else are you trying to compete against? Are there other schools that are also wanting to rank for the same term? And I'll give you an example. I was just talking with a school the other day. We're doing some SEO work, and they're up in like the Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard area. And when they want to rank for private schools near Nantucket, competition very low, not too difficult. They could probably get to a top position in 2-3 months, something like that. However, they also have a boarding program. And keywords that you would ideally want to rank for are boarding schools in New England, boarding schools in Massachusetts. When we did a report on it, ultra competitive. Ultra competitive. There's a lot of people that want to bid for those keywords. And as a result, they weren't inside the top 5 search results, top 5 pages. That's something that could take 9 months, 12 months to really start seeing any meaningful movement because you're not the only one. If there's a valuable keyword that you would love to rank for, there's other schools, other websites that also want to rank. So it becomes a game, frankly. It becomes a game you're trying to outpace them and how do we get more links than they do. And so how competitive a keyword is also determines how long it takes for you to rank. For the most part, most schools outside of something like that, like a boarding school in New England, if you're just like private schools in my town or Montessori schools in my county, it's usually not going to be too difficult, frankly. But those are some of the key things, and we'll talk about how to go get those, and we'll pull that up. And I saw, hold on, saw chat. Matt, you had said if I do a search for my school, does it show up higher differently than for someone that has never done a search for Montessori? So are you saying that does it show up differently for you based upon your search history?
Yeah, and maybe like the amount of times that I've like visited my own website on my computer versus someone on their computer who's never done a search before.
Yeah, that's a good question. Ideally, if you really wanted to do analysis, I would go like incognito mode or use a different browser or something like that. And mobile and desktop will also be different, by the way. There's like a mobile search engine. There's a desktop search engine. So again, using the example of, let's say your desktop, I see this all the time. Your desktop speed might be faster than your mobile speed. Your mobile rankings, if they're slower, might be lower than your desktop rankings. So that's another thing. But yeah. I mean, if you're searching for your school all the time, it's going to be a little bit biased in terms of showing that to you towards the top.
Okay.
That's a good question. All right. Question before we start diving in, because again, we could probably spend the next 3 hours talking about this, but I want to try to keep this as like, what are the things that you can do today? And I want you guys to leave here with some quick wins. What are some things you can do today? Obviously, if you want to do like, okay, yeah, I want to do that backlinking. How do we do that? I'll talk about what you can expect pricing wise, time wise, whether you use an agency, whether you use our software. We'll lay it all out just so you have full transparency to do this. But any questions? Any questions on off page versus on page? Any of that? All right. Now, actually, while I'm speaking, there's something I want to pull up that I just thought about that I'll talk about here in a second. Now, the other thing, there's actually a third element to SEO, which is those maps listings, right? You know, if you type in, again, private schools, Montessori schools in Philadelphia, you see those first three. You have your ads. Let's pull it up. Let me share my screen here in a second. Let's just actually take a look at all this. Sorry, I just want to pull up a document because there's another element, and this is something you can do very quickly, very inexpensively. It does cost a little money because there's not any way, once you hear what I'm about to say, there's no way anybody here is going to want to do this manually. Sorry, hold on. Let me just want to pull up a report. There we go. Okay. So let me share my screen. This is the inside of our software, by the way, and I want to show you something. But let's just do private schools near Philadelphia. Or let's do near me. Private schools near me. All right. So these are your search results. Ignore all this stuff on the side. This is actually a lot of SEO tools that I have installed on my browser to just give me more information. But you have your paid results at the top. So there's your Google search paid results. Here's those map listings. We'll talk about that. And then here's the organic listings. So there's really, in the perfect world, if you could wave the magic wand, frankly, you would want to have an ad, an organic listing here, and a maps listing. So that's kind of like the holy grail of dominating the first page of Google. Not, you know, easier said than done for sure. The maps listings, the big thing that plays a role is actually where you are physically located when you're doing this search. But there are things that you can do to influence getting to the top 3 position, because we've also seen that a significant amount of clicks to websites, more than 50%, will happen here, these listings. So what I want to show you is how do you influence this decision? So there's a couple things that go into this. About 15% of that ranking algorithm has to do with reviews. So not even necessarily the actual review, you know, was it a 4-star or 5-star? Obviously you want more 5 stars, that's great. It's the frequency at which you get reviews. If you're getting, let's say, a review a month versus somebody who's not getting a review or haven't gotten a review in a year, that kind of gives you a leg up. It's not the end all be all, but that's one of the ranking factor are those Google reviews. So when you can get Google reviews, try to get them. Here's another big factor, and this is something that I'm going to recommend that you think about investing in, which is, do you see all these sites? Yelp, and I didn't even realize MapQuest was still around. MapQuest, Chamber of Commerce, and then you have, you know, we have common ones, Bing, Facebook, obviously. Then there's some other ones that I've never even really top rated local. Hey, Yellow Pages. You know, there's a bunch of these pages. So there's all these sites out there, and these are called listings sites or listings, and they're like directory listings. There's close to 200 of them out there. Some are very common, we've all heard of, the Yelps and the MapQuest of the world, and Google and Apple Maps. And then there's others that, you know, I've never even seen before. I've run several hundred of these reports. Pretty much no school is listed on every single one of these. So what you can see here, you know, for this particular report that I was running, no match, no match, no match, you know, they weren't listed there. A big part of that algorithm for getting in the maps and also organic listings is you want to have a listing in every single one of these directory sites. It's not so much that families are going to find you there. If they do, great. It's more for the Google algorithm. That if you have these hundreds of sites, one, it's counted as a backlink. So there's 100 or so backlinks. Two, this specifically directory listings are related to your maps listings. So that is this is something I would recommend everybody have. Now, the question is, how do you get this? How do you get this is why I said you wouldn't want to do this manually. If you did it manually, you'd have to go to each one of these sites, search them all, go and create an account on each one of them and create a listing. I don't think anybody wants to do that. So let me share with you a couple ways that you can do it. So one is a platform called Yext. So YEXT. This is probably the most popular. If you type in get directory listings, there's a bunch of websites that are going to pop up and tell you they're going to do the same thing. This is probably the most reputable and one that I've seen work the best. So if you go to their platform, you can see they have a lot of different things you could buy and pay for. This is the one I'm talking about, listings. So as you can see here, what they say is they're going to get you synced with all of those websites, and they'll give you all the metrics about why that's valuable and how it helps your Google ranking. So that is what it's going to do, right? It's going to push all of that information out to push your listings out to there. So to do something like this, to get what you need, it costs about $1,000 for the year. However, I'll give you option two. Because this is the most popular, we partnered with Yext. If anybody's interested in this, we can get about 40% off. It's about $670. So it'll get you $300, $400 savings if you wanted to do this, or we just set it up. The nice part is, once you get it set up, you pretty much just push a button, you let it run, and it does its thing, and it's just going to keep running in the background. But it's a time saver. Questions on that?
Is it in like an app platform in Ames?
Yeah, it's something we have to enable. So if we say, yeah, you want to do it, yes, you pay for it, send it to Yext, then we just enable and turn on the switch, and then it runs.
What if when you're doing a search, you already happen to be like first or second?
Yeah.
And you're not doing anything. You're just lucky.
No, it could mean a variety of things, right? It could mean, that like your particular that keyword matches up perfectly with your website. I'll use an example. Falmouth Academy is a school that I'm working with. They're in Falmouth, Massachusetts. As you can imagine, when you type in private schools in Falmouth, they're going to be at the top, right?
Yeah.
So, but if they want to rank for other towns outside of Falmouth, then there's typically more competition. So I bring that up because, frankly, if the town or the city in which you want to rank is in your website name and in your school name, it makes life a whole lot easier. So there's a good, that's going to play a big role. That kind of gets into the point of on-page SEO, which is the town that you want to rank for in your URL? Is it in your title of your page? So again, if it's, let me use an example. Montessori schools in Gladwin. So that's a town near me. As you can imagine, Gladwin Montessori is going to show up number one there, right? So that's a good example of, yeah, it's spelled wrong. That's a good example. But if you are, I don't know, is there another Montessori school that is in Gladwin in the area? I don't know. Anyway, if some other school wanted to compete with Gladwin, maybe so a town right next to Gladwin is like Bryn Mawr, right? So Bryn Mawr, PA. If you're a Montessori school in Bryn Mawr and you want to compete and you want to show at the top for Gladwin, it's probably going to be tough, right? You're going to have to compete with Gladwin Montessori. You can do it, but it's going to be a little more competition. That's a good question. So what you want to do, and I'll throw this offer out to anybody here. because it typically does take some sort of paid tool. I have a lot of the tools I paid for. Anybody that's on here right now, if you wanted me to run an SEO report that can show what you're ranking for and what are potential search terms that you can rank for, happy to do that for you, completely free. You'll leave with the report and you'll know exactly, what the opportunities are, what you are. So Matt, to your point, like, what are we ranking for already that we don't need to bother with? Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're already ranking in Morristown, right? But what if you want to pull in from other areas? Okay, how much search volume is there? How difficult is it? Where do we rank? What's it going to take? So anybody who's interested in doing that report, I can get you that report. Just make sure I'm sold. Okay, sounds good. Matt's in. Yeah, we can run that report together. And so that's where we start getting into, how do you pick the keywords you want to rank for? Right? So what if Gladwin, let's just continue with Gladwin Montessori here. What if Gladwin Montessori, so that area out is a suburb of Philadelphia, and it's a very small, tiny area, surrounded by a lot of other small, tiny areas that they don't want to just rank for Gladwin. Let's just see what comes up here. Montessori schools I wonder if they're ranking for this. I have a feeling they probably will be. Yeah, Gladwin's at the top. St. Aloysius. Let's look at some others here. Bala House. Let's use Bala House Montessori. So they're kind of middle of page one. They don't have a listing here in the maps. They're probably in Bala Cynwyd, another small area. Yeah, so the question would be, well, hey, we want to rank for Montessori schools in Bryn Mawr. How do we do that? Couple things. Let's use them as an example. Let's see what they put on their website. Aha. Okay, so I can tell you for a fact, this is a school that is actively doing some SEO work. Why do you think? How do I know that the school is actively doing SEO work?
Because they're naming places on the website.
It's exactly right. They're really getting the terms in here. Bala House Montessori is a private school in Bala Cynwyd offering preschool, kindergarten, extended care, and summer camp programs for students in Bala Cynwyd, Marion Station, Narberth, Penn Valley. Like, that's a very SEO thing to do, if you will. And I was actually going to recommend that if they weren't doing that. Now, they're not ranking as high. Now, they're doing pretty well for Bryn Mawr. This is where, again, Google is smart enough to know Bala Cynwyd is near Bryn Mawr, so they should rank accordingly. But if they said, hey, we should rank for Bryn Mawr, by the way, there's no reason for them not to, based upon where they're located. They should put Bryn Mawr in here, right? Other things, they probably should put Montgomery County in here. I don't know if they do. That's the county that they're in. That's a very common search term. So here's where I was going with this. And this is what I want to put as a quick win for everybody here, that this doesn't cost any money. And this can be, especially if you're in a situation like this, where you're in an area and you want to rank for multiple areas, I would recommend doing something like this. Now, it doesn't have to be at the top of your website. Let me show you an example of a school that I thought did a really good job of this. That they did kind of the same thing, but it's not, frankly, it's not as blatant. If we scroll down to the bottom, there's a school. Here we go. Let's open this up. So here's a school located in Spring, Texas. That's outside of Houston. So they don't necessarily, I don't know if maybe they pull from Houston, but they pull from a lot of different suburbs of Houston. You could see what they did here. They did private Christian school in Spring, Texas. Private Christian school serving North Houston for high school, middle school, kindergarten, pre-K. In Conroe, Houston, Klein, Magnolia, Spring. This is a very SEO thing to do. Now, they do this because if somebody were to type in private schools in Magnolia, Texas, it's ensuring that if when Google, they have what they're called crawlers, when they crawl your website, hey, should this school rank for Magnolia? Oh yeah, they have Magnolia in there. Should the school rank for Klein? Yeah, they have Klein in there. Right? So this is a way that if you're in one of those areas where you want to rank for multiple towns, maybe you want to rank for a county, if the county makes sense, doing something like this, even at the bottom of your page, is a good example of kind of how to sneak in some of that SEO. One of the big rules of thumb, what many people will tell you is like, you don't want to make your website sound like it was made for Google, right? You don't want to have it sound weird, frankly. This is not a normal sentence, if you will, or a couple sentences. It's purely for SEO. So I don't like to make it, a core part of the website, but mixing it in, I think is certainly helpful. But I think this could be a quick win for you to put in here. Go ahead, Jody.
Sorry, it was a passing period, so I had to be out there. So I might
No
have missed
worries.
this, but could you include the names of, in our case in Chicago, it would be the neighborhoods, but these towns like this, could you include them in other areas and not just like a sentence on the homepage where, like, say in testimonials, Jack from Jefferson Park says this, and this about ICSJ, or so-and-so from Old Town, like either in testimonials or maybe just in, I don't suppose, like if you had a graphic of a map of the areas and those names were on the map, that wouldn't translate. But if you had a list of the areas we serve somewhere built in, and does it have to be on the homepage, or would it be on a regular admissions page somewhere, and would it still work?
It's a good question. If it's on the homepage is typically one that you're going to rank for. So I would say, that would be priority. Could it be in a testimonial? 100%. Again, while keywords don't matter as much as they used to, it is. Think about what the keyword would be that somebody would type in, which would be, um, give me a town in Chicago you pull from.
Lakeview, Roscoe
Lakeview.
Village, something like that.
So if you mention Lakeview, that's better than not mention it. If you say private school in Lakeview, it's a little bit better because that actually matches the search term that somebody had typed in, right? So thinking about, so this is where, God, again, I don't want to go too much in depth and start getting into the weeds with this stuff, but when you do an SEO report, you can actually see what is the average search volume that these keywords get. So is it private schools? Is it best schools? Like what gets the most search volume? That's what you want to prioritize as the keyword that lives on the homepage of the website. So, if it's private Christian school, that's what we want to rank for. That's why it's there. So thinking again about the testimonial, would it be great if the testimonial said, this is the best private school in Lakeview? But again, you don't want to make too obvious or sound weird. It has to make sense. But if I could wave the magic wand, yeah, you try to have the keyword that matches, the word on the page matches what the keyword is. But it doesn't have to be perfect. And you can create variations of it as well.
Okay.
So it's a good question. And yeah, it doesn't have to live like this. But like if you could do this today, but if you already had something, right, a testimony, hey, put that in there 100%. I'll show you something really cool that another school did, and they told me I could show this because this is something I used to do for local businesses, and I was like, oh, you know what? I wonder if schools would actually do this, or if they would actually go for it. This is the first school I've seen do it, which I think is really, really cool. Let me show you what they did. These are hidden pages. Bear with me here. Look at they created city pages and they rank each one of their city pages. I used to do this all the time, like I said, for like a local financial services business. You create these individual pages, and then when I started doing a lot more work with schools, I remember talking with her. I was always hesitant to bring this up, but when I saw they did, I was like, "Oh, this is the greatest!" Like I wanted to recommend more of this. So let me give you an example. Let's click on the page. Each one of these pages looks exactly the same. They're hidden, but these are the pages that rank for the town. So welcome Bountiful Families, discover Roland Hall, an independent private school near Bountiful, Utah. So then when we go to private schools in Bountiful, Utah, I would imagine they're probably going to be at the top. There you go. There's their page. So I thought this is brilliant. It's a really great thing to do is to create a work called city pages. So think about all your towns. More work to do this, more impactful, 100%. I would say once you create one, you can pretty much duplicate across the board and just put the different towns in there. Now you might want to have some specific features of that town. Google does like that when you're doing these types of pages. Like imagine Bountiful has a lot of parks, but Cottonwood Heights doesn't. I have no idea, but I'm just making that up. You might say something like, serving the Bountiful area. I don't know, something about the beautiful parks in Bountiful. You want to mention something related to that term. Google has said that that's important. That if you're going to do a city page, that you talk about unique features of that city. Anyway, I bring this up because this, again, it's a major part of SEO, which is thinking about the geographic terms you want to rank for, and then, okay, how do we get those keywords on the website? And then when it comes to off page, so we're talking a lot about on page right now. But when it comes to off page, let's say you were to get a backlink from another website. Let's say you wanted to rank for private schools in Bountiful. The link that is used to get back to your website, if it has the term private school in Bountiful or Bountiful private schools, that's one of those check marks that say, now we have links to the website using this term. So that's where all these little pieces come in, pieces of the pie, but it's all part of that off page. So if you said to yourself, oh, we're ranking for this town, but man, we're not ranking for this at all, and we really should be. Well, then you want to make sure those terms are on the website. You want to make sure if you get backlinks, that geographic areas in your backlinks coming back to your website. So those are all the types of things that you would want to do. Let me show you this as well. So if I hover, this is the title of the website, Independent Private School near Bountiful, Utah. So you can see the title of the website. It includes some of those keywords as well. Independent, private school, Bountiful, Utah. Those are all words. What I see a lot of schools do, now let me just see if, see that now this Bala House Montessori, they did do it. Preschool and kindergarten in the, looks a little bit long. Let me see if we can find one that didn't do it. Let's pick just something on page 4 because they probably didn't do it. Bryn Mawr Elementary. Okay, this is what I see a lot of schools do. Now, this is a public school, I think, but doesn't matter. I just want to show this for representative purposes. See this title here where it says home, Bryn Mawr Elementary School, right? They don't say elementary school serving the Montgomery County area or something like that. So even though Bryn Mawr is technically the geographic, it's the name of the school. I see a lot of schools do that where they just put home and the school name. You want the title to include both terms like Montessori or private school, and then the geographic location. Serving Morristown, New Jersey, or Central New Jersey, however you want to position it, right? Thinking about what do you really want to rank for is what you want there. So let me see. I had this slide deck I put together. It's like an on-page SEO. I'll just see if I missed anything. I could share this with everybody, but yeah, these are like all the on-page stuff. So if somebody says they're going to do on-page, typically what they're going to do is that there's going to be the title of it, which is going to include your main keyword. Ideally, you want your keyword in the first 100 words. You want other titles to be variations. Your images, the name of the image and the alt text of the image also has similar keywords. So if you wanted to rank for Montessori schools in Philadelphia, that would be the name of the image. Ideally, it's in your URL when possible. Meta description, by the way, does not impact your rankings directly. However, it can impact your click-through rates on your website. And then your anchor text. So that's the text that we said is linking to your website. So here, this was just a generic example, which is this is let's say a page that wanted to rank for how to run Google ads. So the text that links to them should be how to run Google ads. So that's your on-site. And then your off-site is you want links on as many different websites as possible, your local publications, blog posts, those site directory listings, yeah, all of the above, as many as you can get. And when I said before, I gave a qualifying term, which is reputable websites. As you can imagine, there's a lot of people out there that try to game the system. And if you look this up, they'll promise you the world. We'll get you 2,000 backlinks. Well, they're doing it in a very unethical. There's unethical ways to get you backlinks, and that can actually really hurt your site. So if you go out there, to be careful if you ever see that. If you wanted to go, let's say a freelancing website, and you say, I need somebody to help me get backlinks, and you start seeing like, oh, we'll get you thousands of backlinks. I would be very, very cautious. That they have to look natural. But anyway, questions. Go ahead, Jody.
Would a backlink also be something from, like, say we're a part of the Old Town Merchants Association, and because we are in their directory or a sponsor for their event, and there's a live link that comes back to us as a sponsor, is that considered a backlink? And do those
100%.
kinds of things do? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I will say in the world of SEO, schools are probably the best when it comes to offsite, because so many people link back to most schools have hundreds and hundreds of backlinks that are just natural, just like you had said. Local association or whatever it might be is linking back to you. The next question is just how do you get more? But yes, the short answer is any one of those, right? If it's the local chamber of commerce, right? We saw that in directory listings, or whatever it might be. Let's say you're running an event and the local magazine says, hey, here are the family events this weekend, and they link over to you. That's a backlink.
Does it have to be a link to your homepage URL, or could it be any page on your website that is?
It's a good question. The page that it's linking directly to will typically get more of the power, but it does impact the overall authority of the website. So, yeah, ideally you want the link going to the page that you were really looking to rank, so like your homepage. But let's say it goes to an internal events page. That's fine. It'll still help your overall website. What else? What other questions?
How many backlinks would be considered helpful or ideal for a school?
So, private schools near me. Now, it all depends on how many backlinks the people in the schools in front, or the websites in front of you have. Most have hundreds, sometimes thousands. And I pull this up because I have a tool here that can do this for us. Where is it? Here it is. Let's turn it on. All right, this should load here in a second, I think. There we go. It's coming up. So there's a tool. Come on, Google. Okay. So, this is not. It's pulling some weird. Oh, probably because this doesn't get any backlinks. So look, for example, Germantown Academy. It's showing this. They have 457 other domains that are referring back to them. The Wincroft School has 116. This one has 467. It's not always tells the answer, but like if I'm the Wincroft School, I'm like, oh, how do I get up here? Well, we probably need to get more links. It's not necessarily we need to get link for link, because the other thing is this is called domain authority. This has a 39. This has a 31. It shows how authoritative the website is in Google's eyes. As you can imagine, Google's own website or something like Facebook has a 99 authority. Most schools are in the 20s to 30s. The higher the authority, that's why if we look here at Yelp, it has no links. That's for this internal page. That makes sense, but you can see their domain authority is 93. That is a big role, plays a big role. So anyway, yeah, it becomes almost like a game. Like, ooh, they have 400 and we have 116. We have to get more. So that's the game you're playing.
And you're seeing this because it's on your app.
Yeah, I paid for a tool that pulls this in.
Got it.
And this is the type of tool again. I'll totally free. Just anybody, just any email that you have to get here, hit reply, shoot me an email saying, hey, I'd like an SEO report. I'll run an SEO report for you, hand it over, and show you, hey, what can you rank for? How difficult would it be? And show you the opportunities that you have. These are great questions. Any other questions? Well, all right, everybody. So we're approaching the hour. That's probably enough SEO that anybody could take in 1 hour of time. It is one of those things where it's like, the sooner you start, the better, because it does take a little bit of time to see those rankings. But if you can get to the top rankings, you get a lot more traffic without having to pay for it, from paying for Google Ads. So 2 offers I'll make to anybody. Well, let's say three offers. 1, if you want the SEO report, just hit reply or let me know. I'll get you the SEO report. 2, if you did want something like Yext, where it does those listings and you want to save a little money, let me know. We can even just turn on our software and activate that for you at about close to 40% savings on that. And then 3, within our tool, we do have full-blown SEO now, where we have a way now with AI to get all those backlinks, not only just do your on-site SEO, to get you backlinks, press releases, blog articles, journalist outreach, where you can now do that in the software. If you go and look for an SEO agency, usually the minimum is going to be $500 a month. Most will charge upwards of $1,000 a month to do it. Ours is at $300 a month to do full on-site and off-site SEO. So typically you see that's about 50%, upwards of 75% savings versus traditional SEO agencies. So if anybody's interested in that, happy to talk through how that works. It plugs right into our software now. And you can pick the keywords you want to rank for and let it run. So if anybody's interested in any of those, just shoot me an email, reply to the email that you got to get here, and happy to help, whether it's report, Yext, or full SEO.
One more question about that, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. The $300 a month to do the SEO, it's kind of a subscription thing? And is that because you just have to keep on top of it? Or if you did it once, then you would gain some benefit, but then the next month it goes away?
Yeah, so if you think about, let's talk about backlinks. That is not something you do once. You get new backlinks every single month. So
Okay.
that's how you get more backlinks. So you don't get them all in one shot. And so you might get 10 or 20 in month 1, 10 or 20 in month 2. So whenever you look at, oh, I want to do SEO, I want to hire an agency, that's why it's always a monthly fee, because you're always doing new work every single month.
Okay.
Now, on-site SEO is typically more of like a one-shot plus some maintenance on an ongoing basis. It's usually just work up front, but then it's the off-site stuff. So that's why it's a subscription, because you're going to get new links, to keep powering your website up every single month.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Right.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for everybody hopping on. Matt, I'm sure we'll be talking probably later today. I'll shoot you a message.
Matt, what is that mountain behind you?
It's just the background. I have no idea.
Oh, I thought maybe it was somewhere.
Take a picture and put it up. No, it's AI.
On that mountain. All right.
I'd
Looks
be happy
cool.
to visit if you figure it out.
Bucket list. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Guys.
Take care, everybody. Bye.